You believe trust builds strength, but I will show you how it breeds weakness. In a world ruled by ambition and deceit, trust is not a virtue, it is a vulnerability waiting to be exploited. Today, we will uncover why those who trust freely are the first to fall. The world moves not by honesty but by calculation. Every alliance, every smile, every promise, each hides a private agenda. The naive see goodness where there is only strategy. The wise, however, understand that trust is a weapon, sometimes wielded, sometimes withheld, but never given without purpose. In this exploration, we descend into the cold architecture of human nature, where loyalty bends to self-interest and survival demands a heart tempered by suspicion. If you wish to endure in the courts of power, in the games of influence, you must first abandon the illusion that anyone acts purely for you. Trust, my dear listener, is the currency of fools. Let us learn the art of control instead. They say honesty is the highest virtue. But in the corridors of power, it is a disguise. Every age has been ruled by those who understood one truth. People do not crave truth, they crave comfort. And sincerity, when performed correctly, becomes the most seductive form of deceit. Think of it. What wins hearts faster than the illusion of transparency? A man who appears honest disarms suspicion. His words are received without question. His intentions are accepted without proof. And once trust is secured, control follows quietly, almost invisibly. The most dangerous deceivers are not the liars who fumble in their craft. They are the actors who believe in their own performance. Their smiles, their confessions, even their flaws are rehearsed. You recognize this in politics, in religion, even in love, where the appearance of sincerity holds more weight than its substance. Consider Cesare Borgia, a man feared by all and loved by few, yet admired by every strategist who ever sought dominion. He understood that power requires a mask more than a sword. When he needed loyalty, he offered mercy. When he required obedience, he spoke of justice. His enemies saw nobility, his subjects saw vision. But what they were truly witnessing was theater. One man directing the perception of thousands. And you? Do you not perform the same? When you tell a friend, "I'm fine," while burning inside. When you pretend agreement to preserve peace. That too is manipulation, though you dare not call it by name. Sincerity is a costume we wear for survival. The only difference between the ruler and the ruled is that the ruler never forgets it's a costume. Psychologists call it impression management. The shaping of perception through selective honesty. It begins early, with a child learning that crying earns attention and silence earns approval. By adulthood, this instinct matures into strategy. You learn what to reveal, what to conceal, and when to mirror emotion for effect. It is the architecture of influence, built on the foundation of false transparency. Why does this illusion work so effortlessly? Because humans want to believe. The mind, desperate for certainty, interprets emotional congruence, tone, expression, vulnerability as truth. The con artist, the manipulative lover, the charismatic leader, they all exploit this same flaw. They do not convince the intellect, they seduce the heart. Sincerity, then, is not proof of honesty. It is the appearance of harmony between words and emotion. The truly dangerous know how to imitate that harmony perfectly. The most skilled manipulators are not loud. They are calm, consistent, and human. They confess small truths to conceal greater lies. They offer vulnerability to establish credibility. A single moment of apparent openness can erase 100 hidden motives. History's greatest deceivers have always been its most sincere performers. The clergy who promised salvation while building empires of gold. The revolutionaries who preached equality yet sought dominion. Even the lover who whispers, "I would never hurt you," while quietly ensuring your dependence. It is not malice that drives them, it is understanding. Understanding that truth raw and unpolished rarely inspires loyalty. But sincerity, sculpted and deliberate, binds people willingly. So, when someone claims to be real, ask yourself, real to what end? Every honest man seeks an outcome. Every confession seeks a response. Even truth, when spoken, is often strategy in disguise. To master this illusion, one must first detach from the naive desire to be seen as good. The strong understand it is better to be perceived as sincere than to be sincere. The image of virtue serves more purpose than virtue itself. Yet, there is a delicate art here. Overact, and you are unmasked. Underplay, and you are ignored. The key lies in balance, a calculated vulnerability, a selective truth, an occasional display of emotion precisely timed to sustain belief. Learn to listen to how people speak when they wish to appear honest. Notice the slight tremor, the controlled breath, the perfectly measured eye contact. Their sincerity is a performance honed through repetition. Once you see the act, you are no longer its audience, you are its director. And that, perhaps, is the greatest advantage, because once you recognize the illusion of sincerity, you can replicate it. You can use it. You can become the mirror others trust. And when they trust the mirror, they stop watching your hands. In that moment, you gain more power than truth ever could offer. Remember this, the world does not reward the pure of heart, it rewards the convincing. Those who master the appearance of truth rule over those who demand to hear it. And when the game begins, sincerity will not save you. Only mastery of its illusion will. Now ask yourself, if every truth can be staged, how can trust survive? That question, my dear listener, leads us to the next law, where suspicion becomes the only true form of wisdom. Trust blinds, distrust sharpens. One gives comfort. The other grants survival. You've been taught to see distrust as poison, something that corrupts relationships, weakens unity, isolates the soul. But in truth, it is the antidote to manipulation. Those who live without suspicion are prey to those who live by it. The wise ruler does not fear distrust, he cultivates it. Because when you doubt, you see. You see the motives behind the smiles, the tremor behind the praise, the calculation behind every offer of loyalty. History favors the cautious. It always has. Consider the fall of Julius Caesar. Surrounded by senators who proclaimed loyalty, he dismissed his own doubts in favor of appearances. Even when warned, he refused to believe betrayal could bloom among those who called him friend. His faith in loyalty became his dagger. His death was not a tragedy of politics, it was a failure of suspicion. Trust is the luxury of those who hold no power to lose. Distrust, however, is the discipline of those who intend to keep it. When you rule, when you lead, when you aspire to influence others. Understand this, every person around you has an agenda. It may be harmless, or it may be fatal, but it exists. The strong do not deny this truth, they study it. Ask yourself, how often have you been deceived not because someone was skilled, but because you wanted to believe them? You dismissed the warning signs, silenced your instincts, and labeled your unease as paranoia. That's how control slips away, quietly, through the comfort of trust. In psychology, this is called cognitive dissonance, the mind's tendency to protect belief even when faced with contradiction. When you trust someone, your mind bends reality to defend that trust. You excuse their lies. You rationalize their betrayals. You protect your illusion because it feels safer than admitting you were deceived. But distrust, strategic, measured distrust, breaks that illusion. It frees you from emotional blindness. It allows you to weigh people as they are, not as you wish them to be. The ruler who governs with suspicion commands more loyalty than one who governs with blind faith. Why? Because fear of discovery keeps deception restrained. Those who are watched behave better. Those who are trusted too easily grow bold. Even the church, in its rise to power, mastered this principle. Popes and cardinals employed spies not because they lacked faith, but because they understood that faith without oversight breeds treachery. The confession booth, presented as a path to forgiveness, also became a network of information, a map of secrets that preserved the church's dominion. Distrust disguised as piety. And what of you? You may not command armies or nations, but you command something greater, your own life. Every choice you make depends on whether you see people clearly or through the fog of misplaced faith. Distrust, properly used, is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is the quiet awareness that humans act from need, fear, and ambition, not purity. When you accept this, you stop resenting it. You stop expecting loyalty from those who act in self-interest. You begin to play the same game, consciously, not ignorantly. There's a saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But the true Machiavellian principle goes deeper. Treat everyone as capable of betrayal until they have no reason to betray you. That is how rulers sleep soundly. You see, power is never lost in a single act of betrayal. It erodes slowly through trust given too freely, information shared too early, dependence built too fast. Distrust halts that decay. It forces you to think 2 moves ahead, to prepare contingencies, to test loyalty before rewarding it. In the art of manipulation, the first rule is simple. Never reveal that you are cautious. Let your vigilance be invisible. Smile, listen, agree, but verify everything. You will be seen as open, approachable, sincere. Meanwhile, your mind remains unclouded by belief. The greatest leaders appear trusting because distrust is most effective when concealed. Remember, suspicion should never be paranoia. It must be guided by reason, not fear. To distrust wisely is to recognize patterns, observe behavior, and withhold judgment until proof arrives. It's not about condemning others. It's about protecting your position. The predator who doubts his senses starves, but the one who trusts them blindly dies first. Distrust, then, is not a flaw, it is armor, and every person who moves through life without it walks naked among knives. So, do not apologize for your suspicion. Refine it. Control it. Let it guide your judgment, not your heart. The world may call you cold, but you will remain standing while others fall. And when they do, you will understand that it was not malice that saved you, it was foresight. Now tell me, if trust blinds and distrust protects, what happens when you learn to use both as weapons? That is the next law. The art of reciprocal control. Control is never one-sided. Even the ruler who commands armies must obey unseen forces: ambition, fear, loyalty, perception. True power lies not in domination, but in the delicate balance of giving just enough trust to bind others, while never exposing your own design. This is reciprocal control, the art of mutual dependence. Every manipulation worth mastering begins here, because people are not conquered through fear alone, they are conquered through investment. They must feel they hold a piece of you, even as you hold all of them. Ask yourself, why do people follow leaders? Out of belief, out of love? No. They follow because they feel seen, valued, necessary. The shrewdest leaders understand this illusion and feed it masterfully. Consider the Medici of Florence. They ruled not merely through wealth or bloodline, but through strategic reciprocity. They funded artists, scholars, and merchants, not from kindness, but calculation. By giving, they created webs of obligation. Every gift demanded loyalty, every opportunity chained another man to their cause. Those who received from them could never turn freely against them. Their power was not taken, it was owed. This is the essence of control. Make others depend on your generosity while you depend only on their need. In human psychology, this dynamic is known as reciprocal obligation. The mind, conditioned by evolution, feels compelled to return what it receives. A small favor, a kind gesture, a secret shared, each becomes a thread that ties one person to another, and the one who gives first pulls the strings of the exchange. That is why the wise never give freely. Every act of openness must be an investment, never charity. Do you see how this works in your own life? When someone confides in you, you instinctively feel the urge to confide back. When someone trusts you first, you feel the pull to reciprocate. It is not morality, it is programming. And those who understand it can lead entire crowds with a whisper. The manipulator's genius lies in this. He knows that people are easiest to control when they believe they are controlling the exchange. You let others feel power, but only within boundaries you define. You reveal just enough of yourself, an opinion, a vulnerability, a calculated truth, to invite their trust. Then you observe what they offer in return. In their response, you measure their loyalty, their ambition, their weakness. The game is subtle. Too much secrecy breeds distrust. Too much openness invites exploitation. The key is proportion. A ruler once told his generals, "I give my men freedom to speak, so I may learn who speaks too much." That is reciprocal control. He offered liberty not from benevolence, but to expose character. Even in personal relationships, the same law applies. Lovers who reveal everything become prisoners of their own transparency, but those who control what they reveal command fascination. Mystery breeds pursuit, pursuit breeds attachment. Control is not sustained through chains, it is sustained through desire. The wise ruler gives his followers a sense of agency, even when every outcome is preordained. Observe the modern world leaders who pretend to consult the people, corporations that invite customers to choose, governments that offer freedom with limits they themselves define. Each choice is crafted within boundaries that preserve power while feeding the illusion of control. That is how empires persist, through permission disguised as liberty. You can practice this in every interaction. When negotiating, offer a concession you can afford to lose, and you will gain something greater. When leading, allow others to feel ownership of the plan, even though the plan remains yours. When seeking loyalty, ask for advice, not because you need it, but because it binds the other to your decision. This is not deception, it is structure. The architecture of control demands balance. Too much domination invites rebellion. Too much submission invites erasure. Power, at its purest, is reciprocal illusion, each side believing it benefits while one quietly directs the flow. Even fear, when refined, becomes reciprocal. A subordinate fears losing favor, a ruler fears losing devotion. Both remain bound, each by the other's dependence. So when you seek influence, do not crush those beneath you. Entangle them. Make them believe they are essential to your success. Then their loyalty will guard your power more effectively than chains ever could. This is why the most dangerous form of control is not coercion. It is cooperation. The soldier who fights for a tyrant's dream endures longer than the slave forced into battle. The follower who feels chosen will defend his master even in ruin. Learn this well, give others a fraction of trust, and they will repay it with obedience. Offer them purpose, and they will build your fortress around you. In every alliance, balance the scales, never too even, never too tilted. Your trust must always weigh slightly less than theirs. Only then does control remain yours to command. But remember, reciprocal control is a dance on a razor's edge. If you misstep, if you give too much or take too openly, the illusion breaks, the puppet sees the strings. And when that happens, power collapses faster than it was built. So ask yourself, if control depends on balance, how do you maintain it once loyalty begins to fade? That, my listener, leads us to the next law, the art of deception as defense. Deception is not always an act of aggression. Sometimes, it is the only shield that keeps you alive. In the ruthless order of human ambition, truth is often a dagger turned inward. Those who speak too plainly, reveal too soon, or trust too deeply, invite their own undoing. It is not cruelty that forces the wise to deceive. It is necessity. You see, deception protects what honesty exposes. Every kingdom, every family, every empire stands on illusions carefully crafted to preserve control. Even nature deceives. The serpent mimics the earth. The predator stalks in silence. The flower lures with color. Survival itself is an art of concealment. Why should mankind, the most cunning of all creatures, be any different? To deceive is not always to betray. It is to understand that perception governs reality. Consider how rulers have long wrapped their intentions in symbols and words. The king speaks of unity while plotting conquest. The general declares peace while preparing war. The merchant swears fairness while weighing the scales. And the lover swears devotion while calculating advantage. They all understand the same law: appearances are stronger than truth. When Caesar Borgia ruled, he mastered this principle. His enemies accused him of deceit, they were correct. But they also admired his success. He lied to survive, he deceived to rule, and he veiled his cruelty in elegance. Those who demanded honesty perished in their virtue. Caesar endured through deception, a weapon sharper than any sword. And you, how many times have you used truth to your own harm? How often have you spoken with honesty, only to watch others twist your words? You gave transparency, and they took advantage. You revealed your intent, and they used it to predict your next move. Deception then becomes not sin, but protection. Psychologically, the mind seeks certainty. People believe what is clear, what is emotional, what feels true. But feeling true is not the same as being true. The manipulator knows this distinction. He crafts words that sound sincere but are built to mislead. His lies work because they match the audience's desire, not their logic. Every great deceiver begins by understanding what others wish to believe. That is the secret. Deception succeeds only when it flatters the listener's reality. A truth too harsh is rejected. A lie that comforts becomes gospel. History's most powerful men and women did not rule by force alone. They ruled by story. They shaped perception until reality itself bent to their narrative. The Roman emperors called themselves sons of gods, not out of faith, but out of strategy. To question their authority became blasphemy. The deception elevated their mortality to divine status. That illusion alone preserved their rule for centuries. In politics, in business, in the theater of everyday life, this same pattern repeats. People accept deception willingly if it preserves their comfort. They are not victims, they are participants. And here lies the paradox now. Those who deceive successfully do not fight human nature, they work with it. Even silence can be deceit. When you withhold truth, you control the frame of the conversation. When you delay, you manipulate expectation. The absence of honesty can be more powerful than 1,000 lies. Do you recall how the greatest generals won their wars? Not through brute force, but through misdirection. They feigned retreat to draw enemies in. They spread rumors to divide alliances. They showed weakness to provoke arrogance. That too is deception, used not for malice, but defense. In your own life, the same principle applies. You need not lie often, you need only appear unpredictable. Let others believe they understand you, while you quietly direct their assumptions. Deception is not always the creation of falsehoods, it is the art of managing belief. You may ask, won't deception destroy trust? Of course it can. But so does truth. Both carry risk. The question is not which is more moral, it is which serves your survival. The wise use deception selectively, like a surgeon uses a blade. Not for vanity, but to protect vital organs. Remember, this honesty is not inherently noble. It is only useful when it strengthens your position. When it does not, silence or misdirection becomes virtue. The world does not reward purity of speech, it rewards mastery of perception. So, when you next face betrayal, envy, or the subtle games of deceit around you, do not respond with outrage. Study them, learn from them. Because those who deceive well have discovered the most unspoken truth of power, that trust, like glass, must sometimes be mirrored to protect what lies behind it. Deception, then, is not the act of villains, it is the armor of the aware, and if you refuse to wear it, understand this, someone else already is. Now ask yourself, if deception shields the powerful, what protects them once their secrets are revealed? That, my listener, leads us to the next law, the mastery of emotional distance. Power does not belong to the strongest, it belongs to the calmest. Emotion clouds judgment. Distance clarifies it. In every conflict, the one who feels least controls most. Rage blinds, love binds, and fear enslaves. But detachment? Detachment commands. You have been told that passion drives greatness. But passion also drives destruction. The same fire that fuels creation burns its bearer when left unchecked. That is why the wise do not extinguish emotion. They contain it, weaponize it, and release it only when it serves purpose. Emotional distance is not coldness, it is clarity. The ruler who reacts impulsively becomes the pawn of circumstance. The strategist who controls his reaction bends circumstance to his will. That is the art, the quiet mastery over the storm within. Look to history. Alexander conquered nations but could not conquer his temper. His fury killed friends and dissolved loyalty. Caesar fell not by the blade of Brutus, but by his blindness to envy among those closest to him. Even mighty Achilles, unmatched in strength, met ruin not through weakness but wrath. The lesson is timeless. Those who cannot master their emotions will eventually serve those who can. In human psychology, emotion is power, but only when directed, not indulged. Neuroscience tells us that the emotional brain acts faster than the rational one. It speaks first, loudest, and most foolishly. The manipulator exploits this. He provokes, offends, flatters, anything to make you react. Because once you react, you reveal. Reaction exposes what you value, what you fear, what you hide. Every sigh, every glance, every tone becomes a confession. And once the other knows your emotions, he owns your strings. So the Machiavellian ruler learns restraint, not because he lacks feeling, but because he understands timing. To feel deeply and yet appear unmoved. That is power. Think of it like a mirror of ice, calm on the surface, fierce currents beneath. The emotion exists, but it never spills uncontrolled. It is channeled into strategy, not sentiment. The great manipulators in history always appeared serene. Whether popes in their courts or merchants in negotiation, they concealed every pulse of agitation behind composure. Their calmness unnerved others, invited speculation, and established dominance without a word. Because silence, when charged with control, speaks louder than any outburst. Even in your daily life, this law governs influence. The colleague who frustrates you, the partner who provokes you, the rival who seeks to unsettle you. They all study your reaction. Every time you rise in anger or sink in despair, you surrender power. But when you remain still, unreadable, the balance shifts. You become the one who defines the tempo. Emotional distance allows you to observe, calculate, and decide without the distortion of feeling. It is the foundation of persuasion, negotiation, and survival. But make no mistake, distance is not detachment from humanity, it is command over it. You must feel, but selectively. Compassion is useful when it wins loyalty. Anger is useful when it instills fear. Love when it inspires obedience. The emotion itself is neutral. It is your control over its timing that defines mastery. In The Prince, I once wrote that a ruler must learn to be both beast and man. This was not metaphor, it was instruction. The lion uses strength, the fox uses cunning. But both act without sentiment. They strike not from emotion, but from advantage. So must you. When you learn to separate emotion from action, you move from reaction to orchestration. You cease to be a participant and become the designer of outcomes. Observe how modern leaders manipulate through calm. A politician smiles amid scandal. A CEO dismisses chaos with poise. Their composure projects control, and the masses interpret that as competence. The illusion of serenity becomes a fortress. Behind it, storms may rage, but the world never sees them. To master emotional distance, you must practice restraint in moments of heat. Delay speech when angry. Withdraw when flattered. Reflect before acting. Those few seconds of delay turn instinct into insight. Ask yourself, when was the last time you acted on feeling and regretted it? Now ask, when was the last time you waited, watched, and gained more by doing less? The mind that governs emotion becomes unshakable. It can endure betrayal without collapse, loss without despair, and victory without arrogance. That is not coldness. It is strength distilled to its purest form. In the realm of power, emotion is currency. Spend it wisely, or be enslaved by those who hoard it. Remember, this control is not about suppression. It is about redirection. The calm exterior hides a storm disciplined into silence. Master that silence, and you master the world. And yet, even the most composed ruler faces one danger greater than anger, fear, or love. Attachment. Because once you care too much, you no longer rule, it rules you. That, my listener, is the final truth of power, how to stay untouchable in a world built to seduce your loyalty. Control is not about chains. It is about belief. The greatest rulers never shout commands, they whisper ideas. They do not force obedience, they inspire dependence. Those beneath them think they act freely, never realizing every choice was designed. That is the true art of power, to lead minds without their awareness, to bend will without breaking it. You see, influence is not taken, it is planted. It grows through perception, emotion, and silence. And when done correctly, the world moves at your pace, believing it was their idea all along. Ask yourself, do you control others, or are you merely reacting to those who control you? Those who understand these laws no longer live at the mercy of deception. They become its architects. If you have the mind for this kind of truth, then speak it below. Comment your thoughts, prove you see beyond the illusion. Subscribe, and join those who study power rather than serve it, and share this video so others may awaken before someone else learns to control them first.